Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 142 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. Okay, so this week we are going to start off with a phone call, a couple of shaves of the day, 20 questions with Brush and Soap and Blade. Got an email from Brian over there at theshavingedge.com. Filled out a questionnaire, and lo and behold, I'm on his blog, 20 Questions with Brush and Soap and Blade. Tell you a little bit about that and give you a link to head on over there to check out the rest. The weekend shave of the day. I don't know about you, but I spent my weekend, or at least part of my weekend, working on an eagle project for a young boy, trying to get his eagle rank in Boy Scouts, and yeah, that's good stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Monday shave of the day. I went out and bought something over the weekend, and it doesn't really matter what it was that I bought. I want to talk more about the experience and how that went, so I'll talk about that a little bit. Tuesday shave of the day. As much as I hate to say it, I'm going to take some time off, so I'll tell you about that and tell you why and what I got going on, and then we'll finish up the show with Wednesday shave of the day, and that's where we'll call it quits for this week. And, so there's the show this week, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. I know I enjoyed making it. So let's get on with this thing.
Well, good day to you, Rick, and your listeners. Always a pleasure to hear your podcast. I learn an awful lot, especially about the rusting of stainless steel, or rust fray, as they call it in Europe. It's amazing that stainless steel actually becomes stained depending on the quality. You also mentioned the bluing process of carbon steel and how you can, with a little expertise, create a firearm or any other device that just is a beautiful surface and that doesn't tarnish or diminish over time if you keep it up and lubricate it. What got me to thinking is that rust, of course, as Neil Young says, never sleeps. But sometimes we like rust. For example, in your Boy Scout troop and ours over the history, the use of flint and steel, and not these ferrocerium strikers, but the actual steel or carbon steel that was struck against a piece of flint, is actually a rust with a pedigree. Because what we're doing is we're actually shaving off a small piece of steel. And because of the pyrophoricity, big word there, that small piece of steel turns into a spark. But it's actually oxidizing, and if you think about it, it's rusting. So we can actually start fires with rust. And of course, we all know that steel wool, when applied with, say, a 9-volt battery or actually a match, will catch fire. So steel will actually burn. And it's the rust and the big word, pyrophoricity. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in. Enjoyed the program. Look forward to a lot more because it's educational and good stuff. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, that was a great call, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, it is amazing when you think about rust. You know, rust is nothing more than oxidation of something, and the thing that I really have fun with is when I sit around a campfire talking to my boys and look at them and say, you realize, of course, that what we're doing is sitting around and watch the equivalent of wood rusting. And they look at me like, what? And then we start talking about rapid oxidation of things and what that does. Yeah, it's good stuff. I do enjoy it. It's fun to make people, whether they be young or old, think. So anyhow, thank you very much for the call. Well, I tried to do a shave of the day yesterday, and lo and behold, I come out and the batteries are dead in the mobile studio. Luckily, it's just the recorder and not the mobile studio itself, so I was able to get to work, which is good because, well, I need the money to afford new batteries. Yeah, but that's okay. Anyhow, shave of the day yesterday. Okay, so the shave of the day yesterday, I was scrounging through my soap pile and decided that I wanted to, do something, fun, and soap that I enjoy and one that smells good, and, especially after a week of playing around with the P&G formulation of Old Spice lime that, it produced good lather, but it didn't have really that much smell to it. So what did I do? I went ahead and grabbed the Wickham Soap Company Spice Trade that I have, a wonderful scent, holy cow, and proceeded to lather it up, and great lather, had a just, oh my goodness, wonderful, wonderful shave, just because, quite honestly, I was kind of enveloped in the smell of it all, and quite the smell it was. So, good stuff there. Anyhow, went ahead and shaved it off with my 1930 Gillette New short comb, and put a Gillette Silver Blue blade in it, and went to town. 3 passes, just, oh my goodness. It's funny. I was talking at one point to somebody, and they were, I think it was on Facebook, and they were commenting if I could really get a good close shave with a double-edged razor or a single-edged razor versus a straight razor. And, sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes I can get a much closer shave with a straight razor. And then I'm thinking, but there's also like my VC1 Auto Strop with the feather blade that is really, really close, and I can get really close shaves from that. And I begin to reflect that, yes, I have had a few razors that, just don't, double-edged razors that, they just don't get quite as close as a straight razor. Yeah, that is a true fact sometimes. And then I whip out that old 1930s Gillette New short comb, put just about any kind of blade in it, and proceed to walk away with an absolute BBS shave. Holy cow. You want to talk about a smooth shave, a gentle shave. Yeah, then you look at that and you go, okay, so this thing's like perfect. This razor, for me, just about whatever blade I put into it, this razor, for me, is, perfect. And you think to yourself, okay, so how did we get away from that? If you have a razor design, and, the design is in the head, if you have a razor design that is, perfect, how is it as a company you decide you're going to walk away from that to do something else? Even if it's in the same genre. That's bold. That's gutsy. That is absolute trust in marketing. Wow. But there you go. That's what they did. And, anyhow, I'm here to tell you my short comb new is an absolutely beautiful little razor. It is patinaed. It's the dark copper because it's just, I shined it up once and then it just kind of, slowly started to patina, and, it looks like an old copper and brass razor. And that's exactly what it is. And it does a fabulous job. Anyhow, that was the shave of the day today. 3 passes, just a little bit of touch up, and or that was the shave of the day yesterday, rather. 3 passes and a little bit of touch up, and happy camper walking out the door. So there you go. Even though it was a day late, I can still report on the shave of the day. All right, so let's talk about the shave of the day. Well, today. So the shave of the day today is kind of a repeat of yesterday with one change. And that one change was I still used my 830 brush. I still used the Wickham Spice Trade. But instead of using my Gillette new short comb, which is a double-edged razor, I went ahead and used my Shavette, specifically a Shavette with a treat carbon blade in it, and wanted to see how that would go. I think it's a carbon blade. I can't remember. It might be, it might not be, but it's a treat blade nonetheless. I can't remember. I think it's the Falcon. Anyhow, so there you go. So I'm kind of trying to make a comparison between a double-edged blade and a Shavette, and just to see. Now, the one thing that jumps out right off the bat, first off, the Shavette does an absolutely marvelous job. Kind of like the Wickham soap, it just does some marvelous job. It's just a beautiful, beautiful lathering soap. Now, the other thing that I've been doing the last couple of days, I've been exclusively face lathering, just to try that out, just to see, okay, do I like it? Is it something that I want to do? Is it less muss and fuss? Is it, and realistically, bowl lathering with a salsa bowl is not much muss and fuss because, even if you slip and drop the thing, who cares? It just kind of bounces around. Anyhow, the test, if you will, this week is to try to work those two razors, whether it's the Shavette or the double edge, to just see if there is a significant difference between the two of them, in the shave quality, in the feel, in the, everything. Okay, so what are the observations this morning? First off, the Shavette. Okay, so I'm shaved with the Shavette. I think I've got it under control. I'm not getting nicks or scratches or anything like that. So good stuff there. The cheeks are fabulous. Just wonderful, smooth shaven. Just you can do that really, really well with the Shavette. On the other hand, the neck, the neck area is always a bit of a challenge with, the straight razor cutthroat type system when compared to, a safety razor. So not quite as clean and as smooth as, in the neck as I can get with my double edge, but that's sort of to be expected. But the question then is, am I getting a cleaner shave on my cheeks when compared to the double edge? And the answer is that they're both about the same. They're both very, very close. Now, at the end of the day, they're both very functional razors. But for speed, just absolutely, it's, the kind of speed where it's like, okay, I'm going to shave and we'll just kind of throw the razor around and not pay much attention and be half asleep and, worried about what's going to go on today and not concentrating and, worried about the world and politics and all this other stuff, and my mind's not clear, and just go ahead and pick up the safety razor, because if you pick up anything else, you may hurt yourself. Just saying. The Shavette requires just a bit of concentration. Kind of like a straight razor would require just a bit of concentration. And if you find that in the mornings you are prone to having difficulties in that area, then a straight razor or a Shavette may not be the choice. And you can, from what I have determined thus far in the testing, and I'll do this all week off and on, back and forth, what I have found is that I can get as clean a shave with both. Okay, if I take my time and I work on my neck a little bit, I can get it as clean as I can with a double edge. Although the double edge tends to be faster, easier, and not quite as what's the word I'm looking for? Not quite as, I was going to use intense, but that's not really the word. Demanding, I guess. Physically, mentally, I find the Shavette just a touch. Now, not terrible, but a touch more demanding. I have to pay more attention to what I'm doing. You can slice and dice yourself pretty quickly with a shavette or a straight razor. A safety razor, it's a little bit more forgiving. So keep that in mind. Now, at the same time, if I was to, say I was a new guy starting out, and I was curious about what kind of shaves I could get with different razors and stuff. What I would probably do instead of a shavette or a straight razor and a double-edged, I would get an old single-edge, like a Gem Featherweight or a Damascene or a Star or an Everready or something like that. I would get one of the older razors, and I would get either the one of the single-edge blades, the new ones, the Pal Carbon Steel or the Gem Stainless or whatever, and I would compare those two. Because again, it's one of those things where you don't have to worry quite so much about cutting yourself and things like that with safety razors. And it's kind of fun to make the comparison, quite honestly. It's kind of fun to understand the difference in blade angle and the way that you hold the razor to your face. And, the blade angle on a single edge is a whole lot steeper than the blade angle on a double edge as far as the head position is. The blade angle is the same, but the head position is what's different, and that's what you feel and that's what you see. So it's kind of a unique experience. And, having that comparison one to the other, that's one of the reasons that I bought the razors that I've bought over the years, just so I could play with them and compare them and see just, what's the difference here? What's the big deal? So, anyhow, that's kind of the shave of the day, and there you go. Walked out of the house, didn't throw on some aftershave. I intended to. I really intended to. And then I got distracted, got busy doing something else, made a cup of coffee, and before I know it, I was out the door and in the mobile studio. Dang it. Oh, well, that's okay. The good news is, walked out again with another great shave. Recently, I received an email from Brian. Now, for those of you that may not know, Brian does the ShavingEdge.com blog site. And he sent me, first he asked me if he could, and I said, sure, I'd be more than happy to. He sent me 20 questions. Actually, a few more, but we got the good stuff anyhow. So 20 questions with brush and soap and blade. So I will link to the ShavingEdge.com, but let's see, where to start? Where to start? Okay, so one of the questions that he asked me, and most of it's about wet shaving, but this one wasn't. He said, you dedicate a lot of time to Boy Scouts of America. How long have you been active with the organization? And so I'll read you this answer, just get a feel for the kind of answers that I ended up giving him on most of the stuff. So to answer the question about Boy Scouts, my older son got into Scouts in the 5th grade, and I joined with him. He's now in his 3rd year of college, so, you do the math. It's been a while. So why? Well, when I was growing up, my mom wanted me to get involved in Scouts. She thought that she was doing the right thing, and instinctively she was. However, she knew nothing about Scouts. Not her fault, just reality. So I joined a Webelos patrol in a Cub Scout den. It was in the fall, and before I knew it, someone handed me a Pinewood Derby kit. They said, make a car, and then we'll race them. So I went home, and since Mom didn't know anything about these types of things, I did my best. It is the Cub Scout motto, after all. When the race day came, my vehicle, it was not a car by any stretch, my vehicle did not do well. The other boys laughed and teased mercilessly. Normal behavior for that aged boy. However, the adult leaders allowed it. They did not use it as a teachable moment to talk about grace in winning, kindness, courteous, etc. Parts of the Boy Scout law. Anyhow, after that, I'd had enough and quit. I lasted 3 months. When my son got interested, I joined to ensure that he and the other boys in the Cub Scout den would have a better environment than I did. I've been a bear den leader, an assistant cub master, a Webelos den leader, a pack trainer, an assistant scout master, and now scoutmaster. When I see things going south as to the way the boys treat each other, the first question that I ask them is, what part of the scout law is that behavior not following? It's actually become a troop joke, but it has been highly effective, and I have a troop that I'm proud of. So yes, I dedicate time to it, but I'm planting seeds into the minds of young men who will be here after I am gone. They're the legacy of us all, and thus the time is well spent. So that just gives you maybe a feel for some of the answers. Some of the other questions is, how long have you been in traditional wet shaving? What's your choice for razors? Double-edged, straight razor, shavette. Let's see, what's the prep routine? What advice would you give to someone getting into traditional wet shaving? How'd you get into podcasting? How long does it take to record an episode? And you used to do interviews on the shows, and can listeners expect more down the line? Now, I'll give you that one. I love doing interviews. I absolutely adore them, but coordinating someone else's time and my time to correspond so that it can actually work out is really, really difficult. I have great respect for folks that do interviews from just the logistics point of view. I'd love to do more of them, but my current workload really doesn't make it doable. And that is the truth. And then finally, why should listeners tune in? Anyhow, I will link to theshavingedge.com. It's got some good stuff in there, so check it out. And if you want to learn more about, well, Brush and Soap and Blade, what I do and how I do it and everything else, it's a good place to start. Let's talk about the shave of the day. Okay, so the shave of the day today was with some Wickham Spice Trade soap and Shavette and my 1305 brush. Now, the thing that makes this interesting is that I was on Facebook the other day, and a gentleman mentioned that the Wickham soaps, being as soft as they were causing him issue, in that he was having a hard time loading. Okay. So I told him what I did, and so I'll relate that here. Yes, the Wickham soaps are, in fact, very, very soft. And so under normal circumstances, when you go to load, what I've found anyhow is that they kind of dish out in the middle and splay toward the sides. And initially you think, oh my, it's going to come out of the tin, but it doesn't. Now, the other thing that I do, or that I have been doing, that has been very, very successful, is that after I soak my brush, and it does, I think it makes a difference that I'm using a boar brush that has a lot of backbone and, a good bit of stiffness in the bristles. To me, especially for soft soaps, they just load, well, easier than badger brushes. Anyhow, the way that I do it is I'll soak my brush while I'm taking a shower, jump out of the shower, and I will squeeze all of the water that I can get out of the brush. And then I load for, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe 15 seconds, 30 seconds max. Swirling it around with essentially a moistened brush, but not a wet brush. And that seems to load very, very nicely. Now, I'm loading just the tips, and if I bowl lather, or like I've been doing this week, face lather, I'll spread it around first. Then I'll dip the tips in some water for face lathering and continue, or put a teaspoon of water in the bowl and continue bowl lathering. And I usually end up with a very nice lather, very nice thick lather that works very well. And what I'll then do is, for the second pass, I'll go ahead and dip the bristles, just the tips, back in water again. And that usually picks up enough moisture for both the second and third pass. So that's what I've been doing. I understand his concern and I understand his issues. Because, yes, the Wickham soaps are soft. But at least from my standpoint, it never came up, I think, because I was using a bore brush. And so if you have a bore brush or a short, stiff, I've got a little, oh gosh, I can't even remember which one it is, but I've got a little Badger brush that is kind of short and scratchy and it's got backbone galore, and that one would probably also be very good for a Wickham soap. Some of my larger loft Badger brushes probably would not, just because I don't think they would have enough, I don't know, scratch, if you will, to pick up any soap without moving it all over the place. So, just something to keep in mind, depending on the consistency of your soap, it may work better with different brushes. It may be that you have a brush that is really, really suitable for a very hard soap. And if you go to a soft soap, it doesn't work very well at all. And vice versa. And so it's just another one of those variables that, well, kind of keep things interesting, I guess is the best word. So, anyhow, I thought I'd mention that. Anyhow, the shave of the day was a 2-pass shave. I shaved late, and it was one of those things. I had stuff to do in the morning, and I shaved late, and I didn't want to, be absolutely clean shaven, just socially acceptable. So, a quick 2-pass shave with the grain and then against the grain. Basically down and then up with a shavette, and worked very, very nicely. The only place that was not, perfect was my neck area, which takes a cross, kind of a cross grain type move to do well. So anyhow, that was the shave of the day, and a good day it was. Well, we had some fun and excitement this weekend with the Scout Troop. One of the boys was working on his Eagle Scout project, and so that's what we did. And I must say, it was a blast. Really, it was fun. It was a good bit of work, but it was an absolute blast. And the reason that it was a blast is that there was 75% of my troop that showed up to help this young man on his Eagle project. The adults pitched in, showed up and pitched in too. I don't think there was, except for the families that were out of town, for the most part, I think everybody was there. And it was touching. It really was. It was heartwarming and touching. My oldest son, who aged out a couple of years ago, showed up. And he showed up, and I asked him, I said, okay, this boy is working on his project. He said, okay, I'll be there. I'm like, okay. He said, yeah, he was there for me. He helped me on my Eagle project. I'm going to be there for him. And it was important to him to set a good example for some of the younger kids that, hey, there's an obligation here to, if at all possible, step up and help and continue to set that good example of, you helped me back when I was working on stuff, and I'm going to turn around and repay that favor. And that was good. That was nice to see. And I think it was very, very evident that, some of the younger boys that were there understood that almost instinctively. It was really, really good, and enjoyed it. So, what was his project? All right. So there's the church that we meet at. They just put in a new building, kind of an activity center, and there was a space in the parking lot that didn't get paved, that had just dirt. And it was, level with the parking lot, and it was hard-packed red clay and just, dirt and weeds and stuff like that. So what we did is we built a low retaining wall around it, sunk in about half a block, embedded in gravel, and dropped down nicely, and then we proceeded to spray all the weeds, put in a pipe for drainage, and fill it up with topsoil. So it makes a nice planting bed, something that looks a little bit more attractive than just a chunk of weeds sitting there. And there's an opportunity to put things in there, plants, trees, whatever, that would be, well, nice. It turned out very, very well. Now, the boy that worked on this is also a bit of a character, and also rather special, because he joined 2.5 years ago. And to go from 2.5 years ago as walking in the door saying, I want to be involved in Scouts, to 2.5 years later having risen through all the ranks and gotten everything that he needs to make it to Eagle, that's pretty special. That's pretty neat. And he's wanting to go to the Naval Academy if at all possible. And with the motivation that he has demonstrated, I think he'll make it. In fact, I don't have any doubts he'll make it. So all in all, it was really a lot of fun. Now, granted, I was definitely sore that day, sore that afternoon, sore the next day. Because when you're dealing with picks and mattocks and shovels and blocks of concrete, and up and down and cutting and sawing, and I was the guy that got to run the concrete saw. I enjoyed doing that. And a good time was had by all. It turned out great. The best part was that when it was announced at the church that we meet that this was in fact a Young Man's Eagle project, before they even finished the announcement, the whole place kind of erupted in applause, which was, well, again, just another absolutely heartwarming moment. And, it's one of those things where, I said one time that it was time well spent, and it was, time well spent showing that it's good and it's okay to give back to your community, and it's good and it's okay to pay back somebody who has helped you in the past, to turn around and make an effort to pay them back. Yeah, it's all good. The parents setting absolutely wonderful examples of how to work together and how to get a job done and do what it takes and make the time. Yeah. In fact, I had one adult that even said, in front of everybody, that so that other people could hear, this is a big deal. Of course I'm going to be here. Yeah. So all in all, very, very good stuff, heartwarming, and again, one of the reasons that I put in my time to do what I can to help these young men grow into, well, better young men. All right, so the shave of the day today, once again, was the 1305 Samog brush. The Wickham Soap Company Spice Trade, which is a very, very nice scent. Some generic Old Spice or Old Spice-like aftershave that picked up at the dollar store way back when, and a nice shave with my Gillette new short comb from about the 1930s period. So that razor's been around a while, and with a Gillette silver blue blade in it, it does a fine job. It really does. Again, the same procedure that I've done in the past, face lathering. I haven't done a whole lot of face lathering, so something a little bit different, a little bit new, if you will. and soaked the brush, wrung out all the water as much as I could get out of it, and proceeded to load the brush in the soft Wickham Soap Company soap. And it's one of those things that I hadn't really noticed before, and then when I read somebody having issue with it on Facebook, I started to realize that, well, yeah, it is rather soft soap. Still works very nice, but yeah, it is a soft soap, and and I find, at least for me, that if I have a lot of water in my brush, it has enough softness in the soap that it just kind of moves it around, and you could get into trouble with it, and we don't want that. So yeah, just a little load with a with a moistened brush instead of a dry brush, and swirl it on the face, dip the tips, and proceed to face lather. Turns out to work very, very well, very nicely for me, anyhow. The short comb new, one of my all-time favorite razors, does an excellent job. Very, very nice. I've used that razor multiple times. And have always been amazed. It's one of those things, like I've always said with some of the other razors, why did we get away from this? When you have something that works so well, why do you go and do something different? I don't know. Granted, there's the convenience factor that they try to sell and everything else, and then that may be part of it, but I would have been happy if they'd have just stuck with the three-piece razors and, had a few running around that performed as well as my short comb. My short comb new. I mean, it's, my gosh, it's from the 1930s, for crying out loud. Yeah. Anyhow, that was the shave of the day. Finished up, of course, with some generic Old Spice smelling aftershave. It's got a very large alcohol content and not much fragrance. The fragrance is there initially, but then it's gone. I slathered it on. I mean, I really did. I just laid it on thick and, put a little bit on my arms, and on the face and everything else. And it's like, I don't know, it's an hour later, you can't hardly smell it. But it's like, I don't know, $2 a bottle, $3 a bottle or something like that at the dollar store. It's I can't remember the name of it. I did a podcast on it, comparing it, back, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. Can't remember the differences, but I was looking at the differences in all the Old Spice variants, the fact that the Procter & Gamble Old Spice was much more floral than the original Schultz formula, which is very, very nice. And I still had some of the original stuff in the little white ceramic bottle with the gray plastic top. So I had that. I had bought some of the newer Schulton's formula from West Coast Shaving in a small bottle to compare. I had the new Procter & Gamble with the red top, and then I had this stuff from the dollar store, and just kind of going through the differences. And the stuff from the dollar store, actually, it smells very, very nice going into the game. It's just that the fragrance has absolutely no longevity whatsoever. I mean, it's nothing. Oh, well. It does the job initially, and sometimes that's all you want. Well, I went out and bought a new pistol yesterday. There'd been something that I've wanted forever. Just because. I really wanted it. And I'd wanted it, it was a bucket list item. So I went out yesterday and I bought it. Now, I'm not here really to talk so much about what I bought. Doesn't really matter. What I'm here to talk about is the fact that the gun store that I bought it at went way above and beyond. And it really warms my heart It truly does. To see that in today's day and age. You know, most of the time when you deal with customer service, when you deal with salespeople, whatever, you walk away feeling, I don't know, just a bit slimy. I know that's bad, and I've been in sales before, and, you know, so I don't mean to be derogatory, but, you know, you walk away feeling, okay, well, I got through this. Not that, wow, that was an absolutely fantastic experience. It's more like, yeah, okay, I have to go through this guy to get what I want. And, you know, I did that. And, okay, we've survived and now it's done with. And I can go home with my purchase and not have to think about what I had to go through, well, to get it. All right. So recently we had a Cabela's come into town. Into the big town that is nearby. So I went up there, and I wanted to see what they had. And I went up there, and I was looking at a specific pistol that I was interested in, or actually a specific type, a brand and type. And they had several different variants of it. And, you know, when I looked at them, it's like, okay, they have them in stock. So that's a good thing. So potentially I can walk out the door sometime today with one of these things in hand. Now, across the street, you know, okay, so first, back to Cabela's. You know, I took my older son, and me and him looked at these things, and you know, they did a good job. They really did. They, you know, customer service was good. The salesmen were good. They were not very knowledgeable, but they were good, okay? They cared, they gave their time, they gave their attention. I was not dissatisfied with that at all. But the thing that was interesting was when I went to the other gun store. And the other gun store, I found the same pistols for about $100 less. The one that I ended up picking up was $100 less than Cabela's. Now, I'm sitting here thinking the whole time, okay, Cabela's is kind of like, you know, I hate to say this, but Cabela's is kind of like Walmart. They get their stuff, you know, through mass buys, and they should be able to price things accordingly. It was $100 less. Now, the other thing that was just fantastic is I took a look at the one that was in the show counter, and I said, you know, let me take a look at that one. I looked at it, and I said, yeah, it's really nice. I want one of those. And so they brought out the box, and we proceeded to open the box up and looked at it and said, those grips on the one in the box are not as good, or I don't like them as well, as the grips on the one in the case. And they said, well, hold on a minute. And the guy went to the back with both guns and proceeded to come back, and the one in the box, the new one, had the grips that I liked on it. He had swapped them. Now, I think it is safe to say that I would never have had that happen in a big store like Cabela's. At least it is very, very doubtful. But this guy swapped the grips on this pistol in order to make the sale. I mean, that's good stuff there. Okay. So with the money that I saved, I was able to buy a bit of ammunition, and they also happen to have a range, an indoor shooting range at this gun store. And so I you know, we walked into the range, and I said, yeah, you know, I just bought this, and I've got this box of ammunition. I want to run through it just to make sure that it functions correctly and that there are no real issues or anything. They said, sure. And, you know, I was asking them, talking to them a little bit about their normal range time and, you know, how much it costs and everything else. Now, me and my son were both there. We did not, because I didn't think about it, we did not have eyes or ears. You know, we did not have the safety stuff that we needed. didn't have earplugs or ear muffs, didn't have safety glasses, but they did, and they rent them. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to need 2 sets of those and a target. It's like, okay. So I filled out the paperwork because we'd never been to that particular range before. Walked in, shot off 50 rounds, and the pistol functioned flawlessly, which was just nice. But the nicest thing was that when we walked out, they handed us back our stuff and said, have a great day. They didn't charge us. They didn't charge us for any range time. They didn't charge us for the target. They didn't charge us for using the eyes and ears. And I walked away from that experience thinking, okay, I have saved $100 on the initial purchase price. They put on the grips that I wanted on the pistol. They gave us free range time, free target, free eyes and ears. Holy cow. Yeah, I know where I'm going back to, okay? They have a customer who is now, well, dedicated, a dedicated customer. And like I've always said, when you have a dedicated customer, the way that they advertise is via, well, word of mouth, which is exactly what I'm doing now, and they're exactly right. It is those types of experiences and those word-of-mouth advertisements that sell, that bring customers to you, that bring customers that, yes, have expectations, but as long as you live up to those expectations, you come back with dedicated customers. There are very few places that I will go to purchase firearms just because I need to understand that the person behind the counter has a good understanding of what they're selling, a good understanding of what they're talking about. If I catch the person saying, I don't know, or I wasn't aware of that, or anything else, I'm sorry, I have an issue with that. After having been in sales, to me, if you're going to try to sell something, you darn well ought to know what it is you're selling. Whether that's vacuum cleaners, floor cleaner, pistols, dog food, doesn't matter. You ought to know what it is you're selling. And, yeah. Anyhow, it was an absolutely great experience. And it reminded me of some of the experiences we have here in the wet shaving community that we take for granted, some of us. But then there's others of us that talk about it because we like to throw out that word-of-mouth advertising whenever possible when somebody steps up. So that was my adventure in buying something new. The shave of the day today was, again, with the Wickham Soap Company's Spice Trade, only because I'm really enjoying the Old Spice smell, the Old Spice aftershave type smell. It's just kind of one of those things. I don't know. It goes with the summer heat. It really does. It goes with the heat and humidity and sunshine. There's just something about it that just kind of sparks my, interest, if nothing else. So today, 1305 Smog Brush back in action after gluing the knot back in place one more time. We'll see how long this lasts and then either give up on it or do something. I don't know. But it seems to be holding up okay. So we'll see what it does. And so 1305 brush soaked it and, gave it a shake to shake the majority of the water out like I would normally do when I would, load up regular soaps. Okay, so, something like Katie's Bubbles or, a Phoenix or something like that. Okay, so usually just shaking it out is good enough for those soaps. Wickham, however, is a much softer soap, and so to get a decent load on it for face lathering, I will then, after I've shaken the majority of water out, I will give it a squeeze, and when I do, usually another teaspoon or so of water comes out. And so I have a brush that is moistened as opposed to, well, damp. It's, there is virtually no water in the brush. And then at that point, what I will do is I will load it for, 15, maybe 20 seconds, in the Wickams. And, somebody put a thing out on Facebook yesterday, said he had gotten his, and he said it was the consistency of chewed bubble gum. And while sounding very strange, that kind of plasticky, putty, consistency is actually very reminiscent of what the soap is like. And so on mine, it has dished in the middle, and some of it came over the sides, and in the course of running. But it has dished in the middle quite nicely, and it's not dishing out anymore. It just kind of dished in the middle and said, okay, I'm done, I'm good. So if I was to say anything, I would say, it might do better if it was in just a little bit deeper of a container, just so that you don't have the stuff dishing over the edge and then getting lost over the edge, breaking off or doing something like that. But it does seem to dish naturally and then stay that way. Like I said, I haven't seen it, go anywhere else. Now, I'm not putting an excessive amount of pressure on it. I'm not driving my brush into it or anything like that. But I am, loading the brush, going around and around with the brush at medium, moderate pressure, if anything, for probably 15 to 20 seconds. And that gives me a very nice load. I'm then putting that and lathering that on my face to kind of take the soap that I have loaded and kind of, spread around a good bit. I will then dip my bristles in some water to pick up a little bit more moisture and then go back and kind of work up a lather for face lathering. And quite honestly, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong. I haven't watched any videos to say this is how you do it or anything like that. I'm just kind of doing what seems natural, and it seems to work. If you want to adopt that method, great. If you do something else, give me a call, let me know about it, because I'm just doing what I'm doing. It's not an exact science. Anyhow, went ahead and lathered up and proceeded to shave it off with a combination of my shavette, which I'm actually beginning to enjoy. So 2 passes with the shavette, and then 1 pass touch-up in the neck area with my Gillette new short comb. And, back from the 1930s. So, pretty much just using old technologies to get a shave that is, well, in my mind anyhow, far superior to what I can get with a cartridge razor. And, just more fun overall. Just because it's varied. There's differences. It's not, Plus, the other thing that I've always noticed with cartridges, especially when you get up to around 3 blades or more, as you're dragging it across your face, the auditory feedback that I get from one of those things makes it sound like I am running a zipper of some type across my face. Just doesn't sound natural. It just doesn't sound right to me and to my hearing anyhow. And so I thoroughly enjoy using the traditional methods, as it were. And, being able to use a 1930s razor, well, that's just fun. I've always enjoyed that, being able to say, hey, I'm using this old thing, what do you got? Something made out of plastic? Ha! But it is a lot of fun. Now, as I finished up the shave, rinsed everything off and, got ready to go downstairs, going down to get a cup of coffee. And I almost walked out of the door without putting on any aftershave. And I had done that the other day and didn't want to do that again. And so I went and put on some really old aftershave, some Avon aftershave, called Spicy. And Yeah, it's kind of an Old Spice scented aftershave. I sure do wish that they would bring that stuff back. It's just, you can't get the good Schulten's formula easily. It's not available everywhere. And boy, it sure would be nice if someone like Avon would, bring back the old formulations and do that. The other thing, of course, is that I might go searching on the internet to see if I can find, just if there's anybody that has the methodology and formulations for making an Old Spice type aftershave. Make it myself, it can't be that hard. But it's just one of those classic smells that, you walk away from it, you just feel good. At least I do, and part of it, I'm sure, is the fact that, well, I grew up with it. My dad had it. My granddad had it, It was one of those rites of passage, You thought you were somebody, older and old enough anyhow when you could shave and throw on a little bit of Old Spice and have that same smell about you. Yeah. Anyhow, that is one of the things that, at least I do, I truly appreciate and enjoy about wet shaving, is that you have those memories, you have those feelings, those thoughts as you go about what would otherwise be just a humdrum daily routine. Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between making normal eggs and making, an absolutely wonderful Western omelet with tomatoes and peppers and mushrooms and, spices and just, one, it's like, okay, you get it done, you throw some food in your stomach and out the door you go. The other one, you got the cheese that's melted just right and all the flavors and textures, and it's just that much more above, the original experience and the original expectation. And, when you walk out of the house into the light of day and you've gone above and beyond like that, it's just kind of hard to have a bad day after that. You've really just set the mood. You've said, well, I'm good enough to have, that. I'm good enough to have that good shave and use those good tools and things and just, you set yourself above. I don't know, maybe you walk around and you feel a little snobbish, but, well, that's okay too. But you set yourself just mentally a little bit above. And isn't that a good way to start things out each and every day? Well, I got looking at the calendar, and I realized that I have some work commitments that are coming up quickly, and Scout Camp. In fact, I've got Scout Camp coming up this year. I've got, 9 boys going to Scout Camp this year, so I've got to help get all that coordinated and get that taken care of. And with the work commitments and all, well, as much as I love doing this, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. And hopefully I won't upset too many people. But yeah, I'm going to have to take a couple weeks off. And if nothing else, you've got 140 or so shows back in the back, in the back catalog, if you will. That if you're bored and want to listen to something, well, you can always go back to some of the classics and listen to them. And the easiest way to get to those is probably going to the BrushnSoapnBlade.wordpress.com blog post and listen to them from there. I believe you can get the back catalog easiest that way. The newest ones are on iTunes for about the last year or so. So, anyhow, like I said, I'm going to need to take some time off, and I do appreciate you guys being out there and listening, but every now and then this machine's got to shut down and recalibrate and take a break and just kind of chill out a little bit. So, anyhow, there you go, and again, thanks for being there. righty. Well, let's talk about the shave of the day. First off, I can't believe it's Wednesday already. Holy cow, this podcast week went quick. Jeez. Anyhow, the shave of the day today. Okay, so, all right, it was the last day, and it was with some, I don't know, some longing, I guess, that I get to end my week with the spice trade from Wickham's. It's that old spice smell. It's just I don't know. It's just something that brings me back. Anyhow, it's really wild because a couple of weeks ago I was doing Old Spice as well, but a lot of it was the P&G formulation, which has no smell at all. At least in my estimation, and to jump from there into what I've got now, yeah, it's good stuff. Anyhow, I went ahead and instead of face lathering, I went back to bowl lathering just because I tried face lathering for a couple of days, and it's okay, but I really enjoy the thickness of the lather and the consistency of the lather and the lack of mess and everything else that I get with bowl lathering. So, soaked the 1305 brush, took it out, shook off the water, proceeded to load, and let the spill, if you will, drop into the old salsa bowl, stir it up, mix it around. Beautiful lather, thick, luxurious, and man, did it smell good. Anyhow, I went ahead and used my Gillette new short comb with my Gillette Silver Blue blade in it. Great shave, however, that blade is, the quarterback is toast. It's done, it's had its run, and it was a good blade, and a great razor, and all in all, yeah, it worked out well. But it is at the end of its usable existence at this point, and so we'll drop it off into my little can that I use for dead blades. In fact, I've never talked about that, I don't think. I don't think I've ever talked about that. What I did is I found a metallic tea tin. Looks like a little house. Looks like a little British, house. And metallic lid, tight fitting and everything. And that's what I use for my used blades. And it just kind of sits there on the sink. And when I have a used blade, I pop the top, drop it in, and close her back up. When I first started way back when, you start off and you drop one or two blades in there, or maybe 5 blades or 6 blades or whatever. You look down at the bottom, and it's like there's no weight difference. There's no there's no issues or anything. It's almost like it's empty. Of course, now after a good while, it's about half full. Really surprising. The other day when I looked at it, it was like I did not expect that. So it's one of those things. It's a testament to the utilization of wet shaving paraphernalia and especially blades. So good stuff. It's no wonder. It really isn't. Back in the old days when you had the stick framed houses and you had the bathroom vanity there and the mirror, and you open up the mirror and there was a little slot in the mirror thing to put used blades, and heck, that thing just dropped back into the wall, and you'd open up the wall, or you'd take out the thing and you find this whole wall cavity just filled with used blades. Yeah, it's kind of like that. And it's no wonder, you think about a house that's been around for 30 years that guys have shaved in, and yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Anyhow, it was a good shave. Again, I walked out of the house without an aftershave. I need to stop doing that. I didn't intend to, but I got busy doing other things. It was one of those mornings where you're kind of bouncing all over the place and bouncing around, getting ready for, I got stuff going on at work and getting ready for scout camp and everything else. And it's just bouncing around and got about 1,000 things on my mind and just, it didn't happen. The Zen-like moment that that I create, the bubble environment, if you will, of peace and tranquility while I'm shaving, it's collapsing just about as soon as I get done. Great shaves. The shaves are not rushed, and, there's no issues or anything there, but the tranquility just kind of falls apart as soon as I put the razor down and rinse out the brush. Yeah. Oh, well. Mom never said it'd be easy. She was right. Anyhow, that was the shave of the day, and we'll see what today brings. Hopefully there won't be any, big surprises anyhow. Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at BrushnSoapnBlade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, BrushnSoapnBlade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.